You're watching Satluj TV News. I'm Angus Scott in London. The recent history of the Punjab is a story riven with political unrest and terrible bloodshed over many decades. For many Sikhs, the Punjab is a homeland they are increasingly wanting to establish as an independent state known as Khalistan, to give them the freedom and autonomy to simply live out their lives and practice their religion in peace. For India, and particularly the Indian government, the Punjab has, for the last 70 or more years, remained a perpetual thorn in its side, a region of constant irritation, militancy and rebellion, forcing it to pour troops, police and huge political resources to keep the bubbling cauldron of unrest from spilling over into violence. So could, and indeed should, the Indian government think the unthinkable? What if it did one day cut the Punjab loose from the Indian nation? India is a huge and diverse nation, the world's most populous country with at least 22 different official languages. Narendra Modi, at least on the face of it, wants to unite this diverse nation under one flag as he pursues his ambition to project India onto the world stage as a future superpower to rival China. And yet, in recent years, he's faced a barrage of criticism and accusations by virtually every human rights group on the planet over his mistreatment of minorities in India. With nearly 80% of the country's population identifying as Hindu, the ruling BJP have pursued a vigorously pro-Hindu agenda at the expense of other religions. Pushed by the zealous ideologically Hindu RSS, and despite barely credible protestations to the contrary, Modi is becoming an autocratic leader shaping India into a primarily Hindu Rashtra. And all the while he sets himself up for global criticism for his authoritarian oppression of minority groups who have dared to raise a voice against this trend. Brave individuals who have aggressively campaigned against it have found themselves labelled as terrorists and find themselves languishing in legal limbo in Indian jails. However, the Sikh community, whilst cowed into resentful submission within India, have been able to loudly vent their anger across the diaspora, causing Narendra Modi a perpetual headache as the Indian Secret Services and the Hindutva army do their best to silence these distant critics damaging India. And now, if Justin Trudeau's accusation is proved to be true, Narendra Modi has potentially jeopardised his country's entire reputation on the world stage just to silence a single critical voice overseas. Which then leads on to the key question. What if India did indeed carve out this perpetual open wound in its side from the Indian body? In the same way the British, rightly or wrongly, arbitrarily carved up the subcontinent along religious lines and thus causing today's ongoing conflict. What if Narendra Modi turned back the clock, struck this colonial legacy from this country, and instead carve away this tiny part of northwestern India from itself to allow these troublesome Sikhs to finally leave him and his government alone to drive India forward? Immediately, a militancy that has bubbled angrily away for decades, costing hundreds of thousands of lives on both sides, would vanish. No more Indian troops or resources required to quell the never-ending stream of trouble. No more political marches. No further need to imprison political upstarts upsetting his governance. No more global criticism. And better still, no further headache from the bothersome diaspora, constantly sniping at his government from afar. In one fell swoop, Narendra Modi could rid himself overnight of this perpetual problem and heal this open wound in his country's side. And the BJP could then push towards the single Hindu nation of India it clearly aspires to, free of its wearisome legacy in the Punjab, and free to push his nation onto the world stage as a superpower no longer battered by criticism from human rights lobbies the world over. And in turn, Sikhs could return to their homeland without fear, rebuild their small nation as a friend and ally to its neighbour India. Ideological? Maybe. Radical? Definitely. But Narendra Modi has proved to be a leader capable of big and bold decisions, a leader not afraid to do literally whatever it takes to propel his country forwards. So could the unthinkable concept of Khalistan one day become a quietly thinkable option? You've been watching Satluj TV News. Don't forget to click on that subscribe button to make sure you get to see stories as they're broadcast. And of course, if you have any comments or opinions on any of our news stories, you can comment below, or indeed drop us a direct message at message@satlujtv.com. We would love to hear from you. In the meantime, thanks for watching. For Satluj TV News, I'm Angus Scott in London.